And salute to YouTube. This is Wednesday night Knicks special edition Knicks Fan TV Live presented by Manscaped. Post-holiday edition. The season preview series continues. Tonight's episode, we're going to talk about our season expectations for one Miles McBride. Happy birthday, Deuce McBride. Today's his birthday. We're going to talk about Immanuel Quickley, and we're going to talk about Kemba Walker. And then we're going to talk a little Giant season preview as well, because we have a special guest tonight, a friend of the program making his return to the show. We have John Schmeelk from WFAN. John, how you doing, man? Thanks for coming on.
What's up, CP? I didn't know this was Deuce's birthday. My birthday's tomorrow. We're like right next, back to back. I like it.
We got Spreewell's birthday was today as well. My birthday's the 20th, so it's Virgo season, man. Let's go. Virgo season.
No question, man.
Yeah, man. Happy to have you back on. And, of course, a regular on the show, my guy JD Sports Talk. JD, how you feeling, man?
Feeling good, man. Best time of sports in the year. We have the NFL starting up, and we have a good show to talk about here with the Knicks.
Only right to talk Giants and Knicks with you guys, man. So let's kick it off with you, John. Miles McBride, 34th pick in the second round of the Knicks' most recent draft. Not sure if you got to see him in West Virginia, but certainly lit it up in the Summer League, man. 15 points, 3 assists, 1.5 steals. What were your impressions of McBride, and what are you looking forward to going into this season?
Look, I think he showed you exactly what he showed in college, which was a hard-nosed on-ball defender, a guy willing to take a charge from a team defense perspective. And I think what you liked in Summer League is he shot the ball even better than he did in college, where in college he was a big pull-up mid-range guy, but you saw him take a lot more threes and hit a lot more threes in Summer League. Mm-hmm. So I think you're happy with what he did. I don't know if you can count on that 40+% three-point shooting to carry over a long sample size in the regular season. Yeah. But I think he fits exactly what Thibodeau is looking for. I'd like him to put a little bit more pressure on the rim. I think he's a little bit too comfortable settling for a mid-range than forcing it into the paint, which is surprising given his football background. You figure he'd really embrace the contact, right, to get all the way to the paint. But, look, I think he's a good player. And, CP, here's the best part of it, man. You know, I did a lot of interviews talking about Summer League this summer. All these guys that played in the Summer League and played well, talking about the rookie class, unless something goes wrong, you're probably not going to really need them all that much in the regular season. So I think that's a good thing. It might frustrate some Knicks fans that are pumped about seeing him, and I'm excited to see him too. But ideally, and look, we'll talk about the other guys at the position that have injury issues, Derrick Rose and Kemba Walker, just two good legs between them. You don't need McBride to be a major minute guy in the regular rotation until those guys have to get some rest, or maybe you have to miss some games due to injury.
Yeah, totally agree, man. JD, how about you? What are your expectations for Deuce going into this season? I think we wait. Hold on. I think we lost your audio.
Yeah, he's on mute.
Yeah,
there we go.
All right. Here we go.
Yep.
I think he had a great summer. He had a great summer league. He shot 50% from three and 53% from the field, albeit 4 to 5 games. But I think he made a case as a rookie, and he stamped some of his scouting reports in terms of being able to play defense, not only playing defense, but having a high IQ on the defensive end. Because, a lot of players that play defense, they show effort, but then once you throw them against the veterans and against NBA competition, you need the IQ to understand assignments, understand rotations, understand technique. And, he provided some of that during the Summer League. So I was very encouraged by that. I was slightly surprised by his shooting ability. This is the first time that he's going into the NBA. So you're dealing with NBA distance, contested shots at the NBA level. And I was, a little bit surprised that he was able to shoot that efficiently, not only from one side of the court, but from basically everywhere in Summer League. In terms of expectations, I guess we'll talk about.
I think we lost your audio again. No.
You good?
Yeah, good now.
Yeah, we're good now. We're good now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. In terms of the rotation, I think he will be a player that Tibbs will trust, even though he's a rookie. If Tibbs needs him in terms of spot minutes, emergency minutes, this is an 82-game season, and when we broke down the schedule, we talked about certain points in the schedule where you have the West Coast trip, you have back-to-backs. those are going to be situations where you rely on some of the, your depth, some of your young players. So I think he'll get a good opportunity throughout the year. I'm not sure that he'll be in the rotation early, but I'm very surprised, especially where they got him at in the draft, that he was able to produce as early as he did so far this summer. Now we're going into preseason, we're going into training camp.
Yeah.
He's going to need to continue to make that statement that he has this summer so far.
Gonna be interesting to see how he performs in those two areas as well, because that's how Immanuel Quickley got his playing time in the rotation, was being a real surprise in the preseason. And I'm with you guys, man. The first thing that jumped out to me with McBride, especially in the summer league, which carried over from West Virginia, was the defense, picking up from 94 feet, just being an absolute ball hawk. JD, like you said, his defensive IQ and awareness was certainly on display. The 3-point shot, 18 for 36 from downtown, 50% from downtown. Was really nice, but I think it was more surprising to see him getting a lot of those off the bounce. At West Virginia, he was in the 92nd percentile in catch and shoots. He shot 46% from three on the catch and shoots, but again, only summer league, but just to see, him really unveil that arsenal, a lot of those shots came off the bounce, and he closed the summer league out really well, shooting the ball from three. The mid-range was certainly on display. I think that carried over from college as well. I think, John, I'm with you in that you definitely want to see him attacking the rim more. That was certainly something that he didn't do as much at West Virginia either, especially given his size. And I think he has, adequate speed to get to the rim, use his size, be physical, and draw some contact. So I think that's certainly something that you want to see him be able to do and execute at the next level. Don't settle so much for the mid-range, even though, he was operating fairly efficiently there. Don't settle so much for the mid-range, but go ahead and attack. I think the other area that what we saw him working on as soon as Summer League was over, he went back to West Virginia, and he was working more out of the pick and roll, executing more out of the pick and roll. You saw him working on a little bit of a floater, finishing in the paint, and so that's pretty encouraging. Obviously, he sees that as an area of improvement. So I think operating more as a playmaker would certainly bode well for him. But I think at the very least, just his defensive presence, if he can maintain, high 30s from three, I got to think he's going to find a way into this rotation, because Tibbs needs to embrace the depth on this team. And you have Rose, who was great for us, but crawled to the finish. Games 2 and game 3 of the Hawks series, he was outstanding. Game 4, he was on a stretcher. He had nothing left. You gotta embrace the depth. We don't know what's gonna happen with Kemba. Last year they had him not playing on back-to-backs to kind of manage the minutes on the knee. He had the stem cell surgery on the knee. Not sure how the Knicks handle Kemba's minutes. So I think if they do go in some sort of load management technique as the season drags on, I think he can get in. And I think he could challenge Quickley, guys, for a spot in the rotation. I think he could. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility if Tibbs is looking for more defense out of that second unit, given Rose's potential deficiencies. Burke's a fairly average defender as well. I think McBride could also challenge Quickley, man, depending on how he plays in the preseason and starting the season off.
Yeah, I think the question is, how much can McBride guard up, right?
Yeah.
Can he guard 6'5" and 6'6" guys, or are they going to, body him a little bit? I think Quickley with his length, we know can guard kind of those guys in that 6'5" area.
Yeah.
Yeah, no question. So I think he can handle that defensive assignment, which is why you can play him at the 2, I think, and you're fine. I think McBride is more, at this point, probably a little bit pigeonholed into that one spot. Even though he's strong, he's just not that long like Quickley is. So I think if you're looking at a pure guy that's going to come in and play the 1, I think McBride can challenge Quickley for those minutes, though I agree with you. He needs to work on his playmaking out of the pick and roll a little bit. Just like Quickley, I think we've seen some improvement already from year 1 to year 2 with him in that area. But yes, I think it's possible, given the characteristics that Tibbs values, that he could fight for some of that playing time. But I do think Quickley's unique skill set and his extended range and his ability to play more of that 2 spot, I think will give him more consistent minutes as the season goes along.
I mean, I think it's going to come down to, how the season goes in terms of win-loss record, in terms of performance, in the rotation, chemistry. this is a year that Tom Thibodeau is going in with high expectations.
It's true.
He's looking to duplicate the season. So if, and a lot of this correlates as we talking about quickly here with McBride, because I think, as you mentioned, if McBride is able to continue to demonstrate throughout the offseason, now in training camp practices and preseason games, that he can consistently hit that 3-pointer shot, that's going to be Quickley's role. When we talk about Quickley playing off ball, whether it's with Rose, whether it's with Kemba, Quickley's role is going to be a little bit different than what we saw this offseason in Summer League, where he's going to be more of the off ball guard, or less. That's what I anticipate. And his role is going to be a knockdown shooter. And if we're looking at percentages, his percentage this summer in Summer League wasn't as high as you would want it to. So let's say we get to a point where he's not hitting shots consistently, and then his defense is not up to par as he's gotten stronger to improve that. McBride is waiting in the wings. But I also don't think that McBride, if he gets in the rotation, is going to be only on Quickley. I think he's going to get minutes through Kemba, through Rose. I think the Knicks will be a little bit creative in terms of giving him minutes. And at the end of the day, I don't expect McBride, even if he is a consistent contributor in the rotation, to get anything more than like 12 or 15 minutes, just because that's not what Quickley got last year.
Yeah.
So, we're talking about a few minutes here and there, and let's see what happens, man. I'm excited. I'm excited about McBride, and I think I don't think this is a fluke. Again,
Yeah, me neither, man.
playing defense at that level translates, and so I think it's going to translate to preseason. And hey, the fans will be waiting to call his name at the Garden, anytime that they get. So let's see what happens.
And by the way, CP, I want to throw this out there too. I know Thibodeau is not going to do this because it's probably not in his DNA. But if you have Randall and RJ out there, there's no reason Quickley can't play minutes at the one. Yeah. Those guys have the ball in their hands so much, and Randall brings the ball up, a third of the time anyway. If you want to put Quickley at the one for stretches of 7-8 minutes a half and have Randall be the primary ball handler during that time, that's fine. You get a lot of floor spacing. The offense is going to run just fine. And again, I don't sense that's something Tom Thibodeau would want to do, because we haven't seen him really do that. He wants that point guard that can really penetrate and run the pick and roll and do all those things. And I think Quickley can develop into that guy. I don't think Thibodeau trusts him in that role yet. He hasn't shown it enough yet. But I do think they should use Quickley a little bit more at the one, just because of the way he spaces the floor and Randall handles the ball so much.
Yeah. Yeah, and you need that. And let's segue to Quickley, because I think that was a good segue there. The thing with IQ, obviously the 3-point shot is his strength, right? We needed him to go out there and be a sniper last year, and he certainly gave us that. 39% from 3. He was solid, especially when Rose came here and you were able to use Quickley primarily off ball. I thought he was great there. Low turnover percentage, which was tops in the league as well. His ability to draw fouls, 62nd percentile in terms of shooting foul draw rate, 92nd percentile in terms of non-shooting foul draw rate. Quickley certainly had his strengths. To me, the biggest thing is the intermediate range, John. I mean, didn't attack the rim as much. Only 8% of his shots came at the rim. Only 6 drives per game. 40% from 2, which is what really knocked down his effective field goal percentage to only 40%. So I think the intermediate game is really a question mark, because it's kind of like floater or bust for him right now. So what do you think about that?
No, I'm with you. I think he needs to improve his shot variety. He's either taking a 3 or he's taking a floater. I mean, he took 17-foot floaters last year. I'm not even being sarcastic. The dude took 17-foot floaters. Yeah. Like, you should not be taking 17-foot floaters. It just is a low percentage shot. And I agree. I think getting to the rim is important all the way, because I think sometimes he settles for the floater where he doesn't have to. But yeah, I agree. I think he needs to pull some of that mid-range Deuce McBride off the dribble stuff and put it into his game. And honestly, I think a lot of it has to do with the way he shoots his jump shot. I think he has trouble moving side to side and then quickly rising and releasing. He's a little bit of a lower release, and I don't think his jumper is very flexible in the way he's able to shoot it from different angles off the dribble, contorting his body. I think in that area, his game is still a little bit stiff, and I think he's worried and you see him sometimes hesitate, even on his threes, that if a guy's coming to close out, his shot's going to get blocked because his release is a little bit lower. And I think that's again, this is me playing psychiatrist here. My thought is that in that mid-range area, he's worried that if a guy's, the big man's playing that drop coverage, if he tries to pull up for that mid-range, they're going to come out, contest, and block the shot.
Yeah.
So he needs to either get that out of his head or actually make his release a little bit higher. I would not mess with his form on his jump shot. It's too good to play with it. But I think he passes up too many opportunities, even from three, but mid-range as well, because of his inability to kind of get that shot up quickly in contested situations. So I think that's something he has to improve on. And by the way, that upper body flexibility to get those mid-range jump shots off will also help him at the rim too, where he can be a little bit more creative with his finishing. So I do think that's something he needs to work on a little bit.
It's an interesting point. JD, how about you?
Yeah, that was actually, I think, an excellent observation, John, because, a lot of players, especially, with his size, him being a small point guard, when they have their mechanics in shooting that way, any little, any player that has, any type of length, any type of size can kind of, alter the way that they're shooting the ball. And I do think it's a kind of like a mental thing, and his inability to have confidence in shooting those mid-range is a little bit of the shooting mechanics that he's dealing with early on in his career. But he has no choice. He's going to have to figure out a way because he's not a 6'4" guard, right? And I think part of the his savviness early on, in terms of when he comes off the pick, he kind of, leans on the guard, so the guard trails him, and that gives him the spacing to hit the teardrop close to the basket. You see Chris Paul do it. You see a lot of small guards develop those moves, and it's because of their size. You have to, use some of the tricks, like Trae Young, right? But you have the NBA referee, and it's going to change a little bit now, right? And we saw a little bit of it in Summer League, where
we did
he tried to get some of those calls, and he was looking around trying to see like what's going on. That's going to be an adjustment for him. And that's why, as I mentioned before, the counter to that is going to be hitting the mid-range shot, hitting the baby jumper, pulling up, not shooting, as John says, those 17-foot floaters. He's going to have to develop it, especially if he wants a long career in the NBA. And if he's personally looking to be more than, a player off the bench, you have to think about other areas on the court that you want to develop and expand your game. As far as my expectations for him, I think, during the Summer League games, we talked about this, CP. After almost every game, the first player that Tom Thibodeau went to was Immanuel Quickley, right at the buzzer. Now, some people thought that maybe that was a negative because maybe Thibodeau is getting on him. I think it's more of a positive because I think it just illustrates the investment that the coaching staff has on him. And as he's entering in year 2 with Kemba in front of him, with Rose in front of him, this organization, this coaching staff sees Quickley as a very important piece to any success or failure that the Knicks will have next season. So, let's see what he does here in preseason. I think, as I mentioned, his role is going to be an off-ball scorer. I think in Summer League, they tried him at the 1 to develop those skills because, again, it's a long season, man. And what's the over and unders that Kemba and Rose are going to play 82 games? Right. So you're going to see situations where Quickley may have to play emergency minutes, may have to even start a few games at point guard. You have to develop those skills and have them understand those assignments, so that when you're in that situation, you're prepared. You're not, just put him at point guard one day and that's it. You actually worked on it. So I'm encouraged by Thibodeau's coaching of Quickley. I think Quickley just needs to follow that up with, having a great summer, great preseason, and hopefully a good season here in the NBA.
And CP, not for nothing, he's got to play 20 minutes a game this year. I mean, I'm sorry. I know Thibodeau likes his starters. His
got up the minutes, man.
Unique skill, his three-point shot is so vital to what the Knicks are going to do this year to spread the floor. He's got to be out there for 20 minutes a game. And here's why, real simple. How is he hurting you? He's not is he a great defender? No, but he's a good enough defender where he's not killing you. And you don't need him to carry the offense as a ball handler. So how is his presence out on the court hurting you? He's got to be out there for 20 minutes a game. Figure out a way to do it. I don't care how. Figure out a way. He's got to be out there at least 20 to 25 minutes a game.
Salute to everybody in the chat. Once again, hit that thumbs up button for your boys. CP the Franchise, John Schmeelk from WFAN, JD Sports Talk. We are continuing our season preview series we were just talking Miles McBride. We're now talking about Immanuel Quickley, and we will talk about Kemba Walker. And then from our Giants fans in the chat, we're going to talk a little Big Blue football. Giants and Broncos coming up in the season opener this Sunday, 4:25 p.m. Eastern Time. If you guys are new in the chat, leave us a hashtag new, and we'll shout you guys out. And also, if you want to call in with your takes on these three guys, call us up 657-383-1509 or the Knicks Fan TV Discord. You can reach us on the Knicks Fan TV Discord. JD, I think, you had mentioned on the Tibbs point. Yeah, I think it wasn't a bad thing that Tibbs, reached out to Quickley first. Quickley had said that, they challenged he and Obi Toppin this summer to be leaders on the team. And then also, I think from a point guard standpoint, I think Tibbs was, instructing, coaching, continuing to coach off of what Dice Yoshimoto was coaching as well in the Summer League. And I thought, Quickley had some high moments running the show at Summer League. I think he averaged around roughly 6 or 7 dimes per game. He and Obi had some chemistry there. I thought he made some pretty decent reads off of the pick and roll. So I thought the summer gave him some good experience where he didn't have that much last year. And he needed to continue to show, some sort of development as a capable playmaker for his team. Because we know the three-point shot is his elite skill. That's what got him on the floor last year. But as you guys said, if he can show a bit more proficiency as a playmaker, I think that'll get him, maybe more than 20 minutes, but also in injury duty to be a reliable playmaker for his team. So I think that's certainly where Quickley fits. But I think also, to your point, how he adjusts to the new league rules is going to be very interesting. And just to recap, the league is going to cut down on foul calls when the offensive player is launching into the defender, when he's veering off his path, when he's kicking his legs, and when he's using the off-arm hook, the James Harden, Trae Young rule. I'm gonna be interested to see if they actually call that on Harden and Young, but
good rule, by the way.
Yeah,
it was much needed. It's a good rule.
Excellent rule. But those are some of Quickley's moves, man. A little less so with the leg kicks, but certainly with the hooks and the veering off path. And we even saw late in the season last year and into the playoffs where they weren't giving Quickley those calls. And now we saw it in the Summer League, and we could expect to see less and less of it as the season goes. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he adjusts to that going into next season, man. Very interesting.
I actually think they might call it on these guys because, Quickley's playing with the Knicks. It's a New York market. I understand that, but I don't think these guys had these in-depth meetings because of Immanuel Quickley. I think it was more because of Harden, Trae Young. Over the year. Trae Young is actually more recent. It's basically Harden, it's been years of that type of play on the basket. Yeah. So I think, those two players are in the Eastern Conference, so they're competition for the Knicks. I think it'll be interesting to see how much they call it, because I think there'll be some wiggle room there. They'll be lenient here and there. I don't think they'll call it every single time. But it'll be interesting to see for those guys, their games, how they adapt. But for Quickley, there's definitely going to be a zero tolerance, as we already have seen. And he's going to have to adjust to that. And one thing I want to say, I think Tibbs there's a little bit of credit for, a lot of times we as fans, we watch him on TV, we see him hoist some of these threes. They look like bad shots, right? Sometimes it reminds you of a J.R. Smith or Jamal Crawford when he was with the Knicks. But I think also Thibodeau is giving him the green light. When you have a player, part of coaching as well is understanding the player's strengths and weaknesses and who the player is. And sometimes you are who you are. And, a good example of J.R. Smith with Mike Woodson, their relationship and Woodson's ability to hold J.R. Smith accountable, but also give him a little bit of wiggle room to allow him to play his game on the court. And early on, yes, Thibodeau is hard on Quickley on the court, but he's also allowed them to shoot some of these threes. So it's kind of like a delicate balance type of thing. But I do like that at least the coaching staff is trying to develop Quickley, but also allow him to be, what we think he's going to be. And to me, that's going to be, a first scoring guard and an aggressive guard and a good shooter.
CP, I remember a couple times during the year when Quickley passed up on some of those threes he should have taken.
Yeah.
You heard Tibbs on TV yelling, shoot it
Yeah.
in the background. So, no, you're 100% right. He's been encouraging him to take those threes, and I think you're right. You remember Tibbs coached, he liked Nate Robinson.
Yeah, that's right.
Nate Robinson was a lunatic.
That's right.
Tibbs played him at point guard in the playoffs. So, yeah, I think Tibbs deserves more credit for understanding what players' strengths are, even if it isn't what you might traditionally think is the way Tibbs wants to play the, Larry Brown the right way, whatever you want to say. I think he does let players play to their strengths. I think he does deserve credit for that. I think JD's absolutely right.
And what we saw with Quickley last year was that even though fans wanted him to play more and wanted him to start it, Tibbs really tried to put him in the best positions to succeed and gave him the minutes where he thought he could serve the team best. And I thought, that was Quickley's role. And sure, you definitely wanted to see him play a little bit more, but maybe next year he'll get that opportunity, John, as you said, 20 minutes or so, because I felt like we harped a lot on where he needs to improve, but his strengths obviously again is a 3-point shot, 40% shooting from 3, 70% effective field goal percentage off the catch and shoots. I think he's going to make that second unit lethal once again when you add in Rose, Burks, that three-headed guard lineup, Obi another year, and then you have, you go with Noel, your rim protector. I think that second unit is going to continue to be, if they stay healthy, one of the best in the league, and Quickley is sure enough going to be part of that unit. And then I even think, John, to your point on the RJ Julius lineup, I thought they had, I don't have the exact number, but I thought they had a pretty high offensive rating in their limited time together on the court.
Yeah, they did. I don't have the number in front of me either, but that was one of those deals where, well, think about it. I mean, just use it logically, right? Every time Elfrid Payton got taken out of the game, 7 minutes into the game, we're trailing.
Yeah.
I mean, for real, right?
Oof.
So they had to make up those points somewhere. And look, if you give spacing to Julius Randle, he was good at, until the Hawks series, he was good at kicking out and finding the open man for three. So, look, you put him with good shooters, good things are going to happen. And I think, you hope Randle becomes even more efficient next year. If you take a little bit of that off his plate with a guy like Kemba Walker, with a guy like Fournier, you can do, a little more of that secondary creation. I think all that helps. So, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting with Thibodeau this year, because I think last year with all the injuries throughout the year, he basically was at his limit for guys that you could even think about playing. And Frank was kind of the guy that came in and out of the rotation based on injuries.
Yeah.
But he was basically there. Like, you knew the guys you could play. Like, you knew Kevin Knox had no business in the game. And the guys behind him, Brazdeikis and those guys, like, they were never going to play. And they shouldn't have played. This year, though, it's going to be tricky.
It's going to be tricky, man.
People yelling for Deuce. People yelling for more minutes for Toppin, which I guarantee is going to be something, CP, by, like, December 1st, you're going to want to hang up on callers complaining about Obi Toppin minutes.
You know it, man.
It's going to happen. And there's nothing you can do, because Randall's playing 35 minutes a game. And you're not playing Randall. I know Tibbs. He's not playing Randall and Toppin together. And I'm sorry, as much as fans want to say it, neither of those guys can play the three either. So it's just the way it's going to be. They keep
trying to pigeonhole it. They're looking at the Julius workout tapes. He's looking svelte. He looks like he wants to play the three. No way, man. No way.
Absolutely. So I think Tibbs is going to be. He has a challenging year this year, trying to get the minutes for the right guys, but. To JD's point, I mean, with the injuries with Rose and Walker, that should open up some possibilities here to squeeze some more minutes in for these guys.
And to John's point, that's why, I had said before, for Thibodeau is going to be, in a good way, it's going to be maybe his most challenging year because he has, he's in a big market, and a lot of the interaction here is, the fan interaction and the market and and the shows and social media, and especially that New York relationship with some of the homegrown talent. We as a city, we fall in love with our own draft picks, our own players. And when you look at McBride, I mean, CP, there's fans that think Jericho Sims should be in the rotation day one.
Oh yeah, trade Mitch. We got the depth we need. We got Jericho. Go trade Mitch because we got something cheaper.
So, I mean, he didn't have that quote unquote problem last year. I think the roster has improved a lot. We've improved in the talent department. We have some draft picks, and it's going to be, that first 2-3 game losing streak. People are going to start calling for some names. They're going to be looking at who wasn't performing. They're going to look at every little angle they can to angle for whoever they want to play it. So this is going to be a very great year for Tom Thibodeau. I mean, it's a good problem to have, but I think he's going to learn a lot about himself too.
Absolutely, man. Embrace the depth is what I say. So we'll see what happens with Tibbs and how he handles all those expectations. Salute to everybody in the chat. Once again, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. CP, John, Schmeelk, JD here. We are continuing the season preview series talking Miles McBride, Immanuel Quickley, and we're going to get to Kemba Walker in a little bit. We're also going to take your phone calls. The phone lines are up. I see people lining up in the queue. 657-383-1509 is the number to call. Or you can hit us up on the Knicks Fan TV Discord, and we'll get to your call then. As usual, fellas, this show is presented by Manscaped, the #1 men's grooming tool below the waist. Go to manscaped.com, enter promo code Knicks for 20% off plus free shipping. We got the Lawnmower 4.0. You know this is my go-to, the Ferrari of ball trimmers, trust and believe. It's got the ceramic blade technology, skin-safe technology, the LED spotlight. We're getting bad storms coming up, fellas. If you run out of flashlight or candles, you can use that Lawnmower 4.0. Very versatile. It's waterproof, great battery life, either wireless or wired charger. Very durable as well. You can carry it in your carrying case. And yeah, man, like I said, 20% off plus free shipping. Go to manscaped.com and enter promo code KFTV. The promo code has changed. It's no longer promo code Knicks. It's promo code KFTV, Knicks Fan TV for short, for 20% off plus free shipping. Okay. So we touched on McBride, we touched on IQ. Let's touch on the newest member of the New York Knicks, the last piece, the last domino to fall, John. What was your reactions to the Kemba deal? And what are you thinking about in terms of Kemba and this team next season?
Well, here's the crazy thing, CP. Between the stuff you do, the stuff I do, the stuff Knicks Film School does, the stuff that the Strickland does, I don't think any team has more like independent Knick sources that
like
try to come up with crazy ideas as to what the Knicks could do in the offseason. Maybe I missed something. Did you hear anybody even theorize Kemba Walker on a buyout?
Not one. To be honest, there were a few fans that had mentioned it. And I did think about it on draft night very briefly, just when OKC went with Josh Giddey. And I'm like, they have Giddey, they have Maladon, they have SGA. There's no way Kemba's going to stick around. But I didn't think that, we would be the first destination.
No, and this is the beauty of it. And this is what I said on my podcast, The Bank Shot. If this was Steve Mills, they would have traded for Kemba Walker on his other deal.
Full contract.
Full contract. Oh, absolutely. They would have extended him
and gave him
picks. His knee's fine. It'll be okay. But that just shows you the progress that the Knicks have made, right? Mm-hmm. Where A, they're smart enough not to acquire that contract, but B, they're actually the first team on a guy's list.
Yep.
Now, look, is it swayed a little bit because Kemba's from New York? Absolutely. Yeah. You have to tip your hat to that. But if the Knicks were as incompetent as they looked a few years ago, would they have been his first choice? I don't know for sure. Maybe, but maybe not. So I think it shows how the arrival of Leon Rose, hiring Tom Thibodeau, the team getting better, plus the big market, is kind of coming together to finally pay some dividends here in getting a guy like Walker, who, while there's a lot of risk involved, we know about the knee. Mm-hmm. It's obviously some type of degenerative condition. You wouldn't have the stem cell surgery if it wasn't. So there's risk there. But at $8 million a year, it's worth the risk, and it's not close. So it just shows how I think the strategy of this front office is starting to pay off. Now we'll get the final payoff at some point with a big trade, and I want to ask you guys a question about that. But before we go to the Giants, but I think it just shows you that it's working, and the path that they're going down is showing early returns already, which I don't think any of us thought we'd see those returns after just 1 year of Leon Rose. And I think he's a stabilizing force, right? You don't need Kemba Walker to be Charlotte Kemba Walker averaging 23 a game, right? Be a 17 points a game guy, play 28 to 30 minutes a game, if that, maybe 26 to 28 minutes a game. Be a good pick and roll distributor, hit that pull-up jump shot, be a good catch and shoot three-point shooter. We know he's undersized. He's not a great one-on-one defender because of that.
Right.
But he's a smart guy. He's a team defender. I think he might have either led the league in charges or was top 3 in charges taken 2 or 3 years ago. So he's willing to do that. Just be that guy. Be a glue guy. Be that perimeter creator. Be that scorer. Hopefully, if he plays in 65 games, can I sign on the dotted line right now? I'll take that in a second.
100%.
And I think you roll out. And I think you hope that not him and Rose aren't hurt at the same time. You hope they stagger their injured games. And it works. And you hope that Kemba is ready to go in the playoffs. And that's really the key, right? And I know Tom Thibodeau is not like load management, but he's going to have to embrace it a little bit. Because to your point, CP, with Rose in the playoffs, look what happened when you didn't load management Derrick Rose. And he was playing 36 minutes. And he was your best player early in that Hawks series. He was finished. He couldn't play.
He was done, man.
So you got to make sure Kemba's there for the playoffs. So you're going to have to do whatever you need to do to make sure that knee's good when you need him in that first round of the playoffs.
Well said, man. JD, how about you? Oh, you're on mute.
I talked too long. It's my fault, man. I phased him.
Am I good now?
Yeah, all good, bro.
All right. I think Tibbs messed up. I think they grabbed Tibbs. They sat him on in the office. They said, "Listen, you're gonna load manage him, all right?" And he said, "Yeah." And then in the press conference, when they asked him, "Are you playing back to back?" He says, "He's playing back to back."
Yeah, he did. He's playing.
I don't know. I don't know if Tibbs is gonna help himself here, because I think the Knicks walked into this situation. Anybody, when there was even a percentage of a chance that Kawhi was supposedly coming here and people entertained that. I said, even if maybe he's available, is that a fit with Tibbs? Is Tibbs really a coach that's going to want to deal with all this load management, back-to-back stuff and, sitting players out? Tibbs is a coach that loves consistency. He loves structure and he sticks to a rotation. So I think they walked into this situation. And as Kemba, John talked about, charges drawn. I actually have, here the last 5 years, he was first in 2021, right? He was first. The year before that, 2019, he was 7th. 2018, he was 3rd. 2017, he was 3rd. And 2016, he was 3rd. So he's basically either 1st or 3rd over the last 5 years in taking charges. Why is that important? Well, he's not the greatest of defender, but he makes up for it, sacrificing his body, giving you extra possessions. And that's going to be critical in high leverage situations, in tight games, in the fourth quarter, in the playoffs. A player that's willing to sacrifice his body to that extent, players like Kyle Lowry get a lot of credit for that. Well, guess what? Kemba Walker actually averages more charges drawn than Kyle Lowry. So I think that'll be a way for him to counter some deficiencies defensively. He's going to have to guard the point guard spot. Yeah. CP, we talked about that before, where last year with having Peyton and Reggie Bullock, Tom Thibodeau had the flexibility to use some of those players based on matchups. Well, this year, you're not going to put RJ Barrett on a point guard, right? And I don't think you're going to do that with Fournier either. So Kemba is going to have to guard every night the one position. So that is going to be interesting. And so you're going to need, some of that IQ and effort. As far as him as a player, it's a 2-year deal, guaranteed, 18 million guaranteed. It's not a 3 or 4 year deal. So I think they're looking at this as, let's see what happens. And he's excited. I'm excited. I can't wait to see him play. I think the Guardian's going to be, on fire. And, let's see how he plays. I think he'll do well. And as John said, you don't need Charlotte Kemba.
Yeah.
You're in a situation where you have Julius Randle, you have Evan Fournier. The organization is looking for RJ to take the next step. He doesn't even need to be the number 1 or number 2 option. You just need him to be available at the right time for the right games and, down the stretch and into the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm with you guys, man. And John, to your point, first off, the way that they got him had us ecstatic. You had haters saying, "Oh, you guys are so excited about Kemba. He's not Dame. He's not this guy." I said, I'm more excited about the framework of the deal. And the fact that we brought a hometown kid back home on a cheap deal and didn't get fleeced for once in our lives. Like you said, if it was Steve Mills, we would have brought him back with a full contract, a couple first-round picks going to OKC, and then now you're sweating it out to hope that he can make it to the finish line. This is the most low risk of low risk moves, and I'm just glad that they have him here, because the first thing that jumps out is he's not Elfrid Payton. So first and foremost, you have a guy that is going to be an absolute threat out of the pick and roll. Yeah, he's not Charlotte Kemba anymore, but a Kemba Mitch pick and roll tandem. Let's go. Kemba operating out of the mid-range, shooting those mid-range jumpers. Obviously, he's going to be an outlet for Julius as well. He's going to help RJ. You know, one of the things about Kemba is, even though his rim attempts this year were way down, we're not sure if that's as a result of the knee or what. We'll have to see. But the gravity that he commands on his rim attacks, you have to respect it. You know, I remember when Kemba used to go up against the Knicks, man, he used to hit those, like, crazy circus finishes at the rim, and so you still have to respect it. Last year, I believe he on his rim attempts, he passed out of it about 58% of the time and converted those into assists 26% of the times. So Fournier, RJ, Julius, those guys are going to stand to benefit from that, as opposed to Peyton, who was just, you know, bull in the china shop, head down, I'm going to the rim and I'm attacking the paint. Always froze out RJ, never pass it out. You have a guy that in Kemba who's going to keep the ball moving. And so I think that is going to bode well for our offense. You put Kemba out there with Fournier along with RJ and Julius. Now you have four guys that can push the ball, run the break, and start the offense. So as you guys said, he doesn't have to be who he was at his peak. And, you know, the scoring average, the attempts at the rim are down this year. But I still think he'll be adequate, if healthy, to give this offense a huge boost. So I'm definitely looking forward to it.
No, look, you're right, man. And look, just his gravity on the pick and roll to pull a mid-range, you play drop coverage against him, he's going to kill you with 15, 70-foot jumpers all day. And then once the big man comes up and you have either Mitch or even Nerlens Noel, if he, you know, found a new pair of hands in the offseason, rolling towards the rim, you know, you could, you know, you get a lot of lob dunks there. I mean, it's just going to work. And by the way, the one thing I'm going to throw out there, can we have Julius be a roll man on a pick and roll a little bit more?
Finally. Can we finally get Julius some easy buckets?
Dude, he'll set some screens, but he always just leaks out to the three-point line. Can we get him to set a screen and go to the hoop a little bit? I'd like to see more of that, maybe with Kemba. His half my thing with Julius setting screens. I think half of him just like, yo, Elfrid's not getting me the ball anyway. Why am I wasting energy diving in the rim here? So maybe with Kemba, he thinks he can actually get the ball a little bit going to the rim. So we'll see if that changes. But I'd like to see Randall as more of a screen and a roll guy. And by the way, top and two, that's one thing I don't like with what Tibbs did last year. He seemed very obsessed with just using his fives as the roll man on these plays. Yeah. I'd like to see him figure out a way to use Randall and Toppin a little bit more, given their offensive ability as a roll guy and even as a pick and pop guy.
Yeah, and you know, I think Kemba might actually surprise some people this year. And the only reason I say that is because, you know, I understand the whole knee issue. But I feel like a lot of people are making it out to be, you know, I'm hearing things like he's going to, you know, play 22 minutes per game. He's going to sit out so many games. CP, I actually don't think that's the case. You know, his last 12 games, this is numbers of his last 12 games.
He finished strong.
This is with the knee issue. He averaged 33 minutes per game, 23 points per game. Yeah. He shot 46% from the field and 39% from three. 33 minutes is the stat to highlight. For the season, he averaged 31.8 minutes per game. This is in a year where he played 43 games and had this, you know, knee issue that everyone, you know, is talking about, which is serious. But I just don't buy the idea, especially with Thibodeau, that, you know, he is going to come here and he's going to sit out so many games. I think they may load manage him, but the idea of 20-something games, I think if he's healthy, or he proves himself available, he's going to play a lot of minutes. I see him around the 28 to 32 minute mark. You know, we talked about this before where, you know, we were saying that about Derrick Rose. And Derrick Rose is the closest guy to Tibbs. You would think with a guy like Derrick Rose, who Tibbs knows more than anybody else, he would manage him. And last year, you saw what happened. Even in the playoffs, he didn't care. He kept playing roles. So what makes me think that just because there's an issue here with Kemba that needs to be managed, that if Kemba proves himself healthy in practices, that Thibodeau won't play him 30 plus minutes. And outside of this knee issue, another thing, outside of this knee issue, the last 2 seasons, he's dealt with that. But before the last 2 seasons, he played 82 games, 80, 79 games, 81 games, 82 games.
Durable.
For his career, Kemba has been relatively a healthy player. It's just that he's dealing with this knee issue his last 2 years. So overall, if he proves himself to, to come through on these workouts and his offseason regimen, I think he's going to play a lot this year.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Last year, again, they said that he wasn't playing on the back-to-backs to get him to the playoffs. They want to manage his minutes coming off the stem cell surgery to get him to the playoffs. So we'll see how the Knicks handle that in terms of load management. But he also said that, he had a roller coaster season. He started off slow and finished strong. But he attributed a lot of that to really just getting used to, certain movements again coming off of that surgery, because he was a little bit leery of tweaking his knee based on certain moves that had bothered him, in previous years. So a lot of that, he said, was the psychological in terms of just, figuring out what, how to move and how to be himself to really get his offense and just his overall style of play just back to where it normally was. So seems like he regained that form to finish the season, and hopefully that carries over in the next season. But for me, the number one area where I need him to deliver is in the clutch, because now I feel like we have a guy. Number one, he's playing back home in Madison Square Garden. He knows the environment, knows the situation, can handle the pressure. And number two, in closing moments, ISO situation, I think Julius Randle might be the fifth guy that I want the ball in his hands to close the game. Man. I'm telling you, John. Look, I want the ball in Kemba's hands first. RJ second. If Burks is out there, I'm putting the ball in Burks' hands, and then maybe I'm going to Julius fourth. And I'm telling you, to close the game, unless they're getting Julius in some easy pick and roll, pick and pop situation, in an ISO situation, I'm going Kemba, RJ, Derrick Rose, Burks, and then probably I'll put the ball in Julius's hands probably fifth.
And by the way, CP, I'm going to put that on Thibodeau a little bit, because I feel like whenever they gave Randall the ball at the end of these game situations, they used to do this with Melo too, and I used to get mad at it with that. You don't just have to hand the ball to your best player 27 feet away from the basket and tell him to go score. Can you actually let him catch it 15 feet away?
Right.
And if Randall's catching it at the elbow, that mid-range jumper, he takes a couple dribbles, goes to that little 12-foot fadeaway over either shoulder in the lane.
Yeah.
That's a really makeable shot for him. And I think they put him in way too many difficult situations at the end of these games. You run him on a little cross screen off ball, get him the ball 15 to 17 feet away, and then let him go from there. That's much easier for him. The double's going to come. He finds the open man. And they used to do the same thing with Melo. Will you get him the ball closer to the basket? These aren't 6-foot guards here. Let him operate from 17 feet. It'll go a lot easier for these guys. I don't understand why these coaches don't do that stuff more often. It kills me.
I don't understand it either, especially, in the case of Melo and Randall. Yes, they're a pretty strong ball handler, but they're not elite. They're not Kyrie Irving. They're not Curry. That's why some of these other great players are so hard to defend. They understand spots. The late, great Kobe, LeBron sometimes. Like, these guys, when it's crunch time.
Durant.
Yeah, exactly. They increase the percentages on their side, where they say, listen, even if it's ISO basketball, and a lot of people don't like it, but that's just the way it is, especially in playoff basketball. In the last 2 minutes, it just becomes isolation. Give it to the best player, and you say, go get me that bucket. But it's the plays where you get a good shot, you get a high efficient shot, and you get the ball to where even if you don't take the shot, you're still a threat. The defense has to think, because if you're getting the ball by the free throw line at the top of the key, that is close enough to the basket to where if you drive, you're a threat. Now the defense has to pick their poison. Do they come? And then now it's a double. You pass the ball around. But when, guys are getting the ball at the 3-point line, by the half-court line, you're allowing the defense to set, and you're killing seconds off the shot clock. And usually those plays ends up in the, Randall taking a fadeaway shot from the free throw line, or so, some type of shot like that. That's just not a high percentage shot. I 100% agree with John. Thibodeau has the weapons this year. Again, That's another reason why I think it'll be a very challenging year for Thibodeau, because Knicks fans are going to look at everything from the first quarter to the fourth quarter, especially late game execution. What is Thibodeau going to draw up? Who's going to take the last shot? And, what lineup is going to be the closing lineup?
Expectations are up, man. That means the
Expectations are
pressure's
through
up
the
too.
roof. The pressure is through the roof, man. So, gonna be interesting to see how everything plays out. Salute to everybody in the chat. Once again, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. All right, let's go to the phones, and people have been waiting. Let's go to Will from LI. Will, how you feeling, man?
Hey, what's going on, CT? Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear, man. Loud and clear. What's going on?
Yo.
Hey, what's going on, Chief? Hey, according to also the panel, how you guys doing?
Good,
First
man.
off, CP,
We're good, man.
Definitely want to thank you for that life-altering experience of me asking Evan Fournier a question. Like, I was literally felt like a celebrity for a week. I was like, out of my mind, crazy about it.
That was a good question, man. It was a good
nobody
question.
It was a good question, man. Good job, Will. Good job.
Yeah, no problem. But I definitely wanted to talk about Kemba Walker, okay? And I'm gonna talk about some stuff like medical stuff, because I work in the health field, and I specifically work with orthopedic doctors that treat the exact injury or the disease that Kemba Walker has. It's called osteoarthritis, and it's basically a degenerative disease that eats away at the cartilage in your knee, and if left untreated, bone on bone will rub together, and it causes severe pain. So, the patients that we have, when they get their knee injected, it can be handled, but they need to get a knee injection. And the patients that we have, usually the injection works for about a year. And for the very severe, it's 6 months. And these are patients that are not doing NBA drills and workouts and games and everything like that. So we really have to make sure that Tibbs does not go crazy and run Kemba Walker into the ground. We have 12 back-to-backs. I was kind of happy with that, because I don't think 12 is too much, but that's still enough that if Kemba Walker is playing back-to-back on those games, it's going to put way more strain on his knee, and we really have to manage that to get the full amount out of Kemba Walker. So all I'm going to say is that we really got to look at Tibbs. There is no reason this season to do this. Last season, okay, our offense was severely through Julius Randle. We had Alfred Payton. I get it. This year, we have more depth. There is no reason to run Kemba Walker into the ground. We have Derrick Rose. We have Miles McBride. We have Quickley. We have options. So all I want to say is that we just got to look at Tibbs. We really can't let him run Kemba Walker into the ground. Same thing goes for Derrick Rose, but especially for Kemba, because osteoarthritis can really be a pain if not managed well. So that's all I'm going to say. Thanks a lot, guys, for the talk.
All right.
Have a good one.
Thanks a lot, Will. Appreciate it, man.
Dr. Will.
Dr. Will, man. Dr. Will.
Somebody in the chat said inject him weekly.
No problem, right?
No problem.
Problem solved, man. Throw a Band-Aid on it. It'll be all right. Shout out to Will. Shout out to, we got Mamadou Diallo in the chat. Team hashtag new. Mamadou Diallo. Appreciate that. Peter K. NYK, how you feeling? We have Agent Super Argo, Raging Ricos in the chat. So salute to everybody in the chat rocking with us right now. Let's get those likes up. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. CP John Schmeelk, JD here talking Kemba, Miles McBride, and Immanuel Quickley. We're going to get into our G-Men talk in a little bit. But back to the phones we go. Let's go to Lord Scientist from Texas. Lord Scientist, how you feeling, man?
What's going on? Salute, Knicks Fan TV. Salute my boy CP, JD, John. Yo, I'm glad to see y'all here. Continuing on the series, y'all doing an excellent job.
Thanks, bro.
The best pound for pound Knicks information anywhere. Let's get them thumbs up too. Let's get them thumbs up. I'm OG. I've been here before.
Day one,
we was
man.
at 1,000 and we had 40K.
Yep.
Let's go.
That's a
Let's
fact,
go.
bro. That is a fact.
But yeah, so let's get to the mustard.
Yeah,
all right?
Yeah,
Kemba. Listen, man. Kemba got something in store for us. I heard what Dr. Will said, and I agree with him to a degree. But no, the stuff that they get in the NBA is another level of medical expertise and things that they get from everywhere, not just here in America, but from Germany, China. So that stem cell surgery Kemba getting, he's about to be the bionic Kemba. The bionic Kemba. Know this now. And listen, consider this. Kemba is such a threat that when he goes to break down where the defense has to collapse, he's gonna make that pass. That ball is gonna swing in rotation, and RJ is not working on them threes for nothing.
Yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely.
There's gonna be more ball movement that's gonna make the defense collapse because he's gonna be able to drive into the lane. RJ is gonna be spacing. Man, Julius Randle is gonna get so much daylight. Randle is even gonna understand what he's gonna be able to see. He ain't gonna believe it that it's that open.
Yeah, well said, man, and thanks for the call. Good to hear from you, Lord Scientist. It's been a while. And yeah, like I think, the addition of Kemba, as you said, Fournier as well. And Fournier not just a guy that can shoot the three, but a guy that can facilitate as well. 70th percentile in assist percentage last year. You have guys that'll get the ball moving. That's going to open up the offense, additional floor spacing for Julius, and most importantly, just overall help. For Julius Randle. I think the offense is going to take it up a notch.
I think CP as well with Kemba, the caller was talking about spacing and all the other things that he provides. As we get into the season and at that point, we'll break it down further. But, looking into the future, when you're looking at the Atlanta Hawks and this brewing rivalry, right? This team that, I just think it's destiny. Like, you remember the 90s, when you're playing the Pacers, you're playing the Heat.
Every year.
It's just, it just happens that way, right? Like the Knicks, there'll be some seeding stuff that happens and then they'll end up playing the Hawks, whether it's in the first round or whatever the case. It's just meant to be. So when you're playing teams like the Hawks that have a Trae Young, the Nets, that have Kyrie Irving, you have some of these point guards. Last season, there was no threat. When these teams were playing us, CP, you know what Kyrie Irving was doing? He was guarding Reggie Bullock. You know what Trae Young was doing? He was guarding Reggie Bullock. And we were here in the post games talking about make Trae Young work.
Yeah.
Try to get him in foul trouble. Try to post him up. Maybe put RJ on him. But Nate McMillan kept adjusting and hiding him. Where is he going to hide Trae Young this time around? Because he's not going to guard Evan Fournier. Evan Fournier is a savvy enough offensive player to post him up. He will make him pay. He's not going to do that with RJ. The Knicks have created a situation now where teams also are going to have to guard them. And some of these point guards, some of these matchups, there's not going to be areas to hide certain players, especially if RJ takes that next step and he becomes a dynamic threat offensively. I think the Knicks stack up well against some of these elite teams in a short series because of that element where these guards are going to have to guard Kemba, and Kemba is going to be good enough. Again, doesn't have to be Charlotte Kemba, but he's still enough of a threat where he's going to make you pay, especially, Trae Young, who's not a great defender. So Kemba's going to take advantage of those opportunities. He's motivated. The New York story. I'm hyped, man. Season starts Sunday, but hey, the NBA's right after that. I can't wait.
I only have one question about the Hawks. Who's this Hawks fan TV imposter, dude?
I
see this guy. Who is this dude, man?
Oh, man. Well, let me tell you something, John.
Schmeelk, you too?
Everybody. Man, this kid's all over the place. But I tell you what, man, I told you on the pregame how after game 2, I went down to Atlanta. Even the whole series, we had Hawks fans still watching the channel to this day. Even when I put up on the community page of YouTube that we were playing the Hawks Christmas Day, we had all these Hawks fans like, oh, we're gonna smoke. Oh, Trae Young's coming back. I said, you people are still here. They never left. They never left. And then all of a sudden, Hawks Fan TV pops up, and you look on his page, and it's like established in June of 2021. So I set off a firestorm, man. I set off a firestorm in Atlanta, inspiring the masses. I'm not going to charge him yet. But if he gets popular, I might have to. We might have to, have that talk.
Hey,
But
Well,
man.
you're gonna have to this year because I think this year is gonna get this traffic
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
interest and it's gonna grow.
It's gonna grow, man.
Hey, dude,
Definitely.
here's the thing, man. You know you made it when rivals just start appearing and trying to
That's a
copy you. That's how
fact.
you know you made it, man. You got enemies now.
That is a fact, man. That is a fact. But yeah, to JD's point, they're gonna have to guard us, man. And the thing that John, you and I had done the Hawks series preview, and when I went to Game 1, I kid you not, man, from the opening tip. When we're on offense and I'm watching Peyton bring the ball up and I'm like, wait, where's Trae Young? He's not there.
I know.
Peyton's defender is very big. And I look over, John Collins guarding Peyton. I'm looking for Trae Young. He's parked on Reggie Bullock. I see Capella roaming around. I said, all right, I'm nervous. Because
You're right.
we're not gonna move the ball at all on this. And sure enough, 5 minutes into it, Tibbs panics and throws Rose into the game, takes out Peyton. So, again, this time around, you're gonna have to pick your poison, man. You're gonna have to pick your poison with this Knicks lineup for sure.
Yeah. There shouldn't be anywhere to easily hide somebody, and I think that's
Yeah.
one of the reasons they didn't bring Bullock back. I think they probably could have still tried to do something a little bit more with him. I know he can't dribble and do anything off the dribble, but it still drives me nuts that they didn't. You know what though? And to Thibodeau's defense, I watched the Hawks play 3 series last year. Not one team figured out a way to hunt Trae Young.
No one did.
I don't even the Bucks.
Yeah,
I don't
Bucks did.
understand it
Sixers,
to
no
this
one
day. No one could figure out how to hunt Trae Young.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Yeah. Neither one of those teams did it either, man. So that was fascinating. Give credit. They had an outstanding season, but I thought the Knicks saw where they were exposed, and I thought the Hawks were a big influence on what the Knicks did this offseason.
Yeah.
And
Look,
just
Hawks
getting
are good,
guys.
man. Hawks are a good team.
Hawks are a good team, man. So I thought the Knicks tried to counter it with just getting guys that could put the ball on the floor and do a little bit more than just stand still, catch and shoot as Bullock gave us. Go ahead,
This is
G.
going to be I was going to say, following up, this is going to be a great year over on the NBA because, as John was saying about, Trae Young in the playoffs, I think what happens is, especially him, he just blossomed, right? He just took that jump. And sometimes you're caught in this zone where there's just no answer for you, right? Like you get caught in the zone and you're just on fire. And he got hot at the right moment after Nick McMillan was the head coach.
Yeah.
He played better, and then he took that jump. But, he's going to have to do it again this year, right? Like everybody's anointing him a superstar, but I think this year they also have high expectations. They also have pressure.
Yeah.
They gave the contract to Nick McMillan. They think that this is what, I know they have a lot of young talent, but now they also face expectations. That's the first time that those young players are going to go into a season with expectations. That's why I think the whole NBA, first time 82-game season, in terms of returning back to an 82-game format, the fans are back. It's going to be a fun year, man.
It's going to be fun, man. That definitely going to be fun. Now, John, you had a question in terms of a trade, so let's hear it.
All right. This is, to me, the bottom line question for the Knicks. And it's one that there's no good answer to, but so it's one that we can at least have fun with. Because really, the only way the Knicks are going to take that next step now is via trade, right?
Yes.
You're never gonna pick high enough to get a star in the draft. Maybe, you can't count on getting your version of Kawhi Leonard. Maybe it happens, but you can't count on it. They're capped out for 2 years, and then they're going to have to, extend RJ, so they're not going to have any cap space.
Right.
So the only way it's happening is via trade. And luckily in the NBA, guys often, even with many years left on their contract, demand a trade, and you can get a guy like that.
Yeah.
So who do you guys think is most likely between now and next summer, which is the sweet spot where if the Knicks are going to make a trade, I think it's going to be in that area, whether it's at the trade deadline or next summer, at the draft, or even after free agency starts in a sign and trade. Who's the guy that you each think is most likely to get here and demand the trade? And which guy do you guys want the most of the likely group? Or you can throw a wild card in there to come to the Knicks in that scenario.
Oh man, JD, you want to go first? You want me to go first?
Oh, okay. You want me to go first?
Precious on, JD. Precious on. I mean, I got my ideas, man. I've had my ideas for quite some time.
I mean, hey, if you want to take it, because I'm thinking about it. Yeah. Because I agree with John. Now, here's the thing about the point what John said. I agree with him in terms of what is going to be needed to take that next step, and it's going to have to come via a player acquisition, a star acquisition.
Yeah.
Right. Unless RJ just becomes this A1 superstar. But there's a lot of Knicks fans that they like it the way it is. Like they want to draft and build. And I don't know
get
that,
it, but nope.
I don't know. I don't think that's going to get
realistic.
you to the promised land. The next year or so,
next summer, the next offseason.
Who are you thinking, CP? Zion?
Ooh.
I mean,
juicy.
Zion could be. What are you doing with Julius?
Yeah,
I don't think the Zion thing works. It works for the box office, but who's playing the three? I don't.
And then, by the way, you have 3 guys with bad knees on your team. Good luck.
Right.
The way I'm thinking about it, you're gonna need, because if you're looking at the landscape, right, you have players that it could happen, like Karl Anthony Towns, but is he that guy? That's a question mark. Then you got, Zion. Then what happens with your roster construction? Like, the Knicks are in a little, based on the question, it's a unique situation because there's not that like surefire star that's going to be a free agent like the years that Kawhi and LeBron, Kevin Durant, like we don't have that situation brewing.
90% of them play for Brooklyn.
You're gonna.
I mean, let's just be real. You got 90% of them playing for Brooklyn right now.
Yeah, because honestly, there's like 6 of those guys in the league, and half of them play for like Brooklyn, or at least 2 of them, depending on what we think of Kyrie.
Yeah. So I think you're gonna have to look at one of these situations where maybe a Utah, you're looking ahead, maybe a Donovan Mitchell. What happens in Phoenix with Devin Booker? Like who? I think you have to look at a situation where I know today it looks unlikely, but in a year or 2 from now, this situation doesn't pan out. Do some of these players say, "All right, I know I'm in a winning situation, but I need to get to New York"?
I think Mitchell and Booker are at least 2 years away.
And that's my thing. If we're talking about next summer, my ideal target is Beal. It's always been Beal. Now the Dinwiddie thing probably changed things. We know that Beal had angled to bring him there. It seems like Beal is going to be the guy that's willing to take the max contract and then figure things out down the road, get paid, take care of his future, and then figure out, how to win, quote unquote, down the road. So even that seems unlikely. But, given that he is the next free agent, I would go Beal first. But I'm with you, John. I think that the success of Utah and the Suns this past season, you got to think, I can't imagine them falling off a cliff next season. Maybe they're not, 1 and 2 in the West respectively, but I got to figure they're going to be contending, with the Lakers, the AARP team as they call them. So I don't see how they'd be made available in the immediate, in the near future, as opposed to a Beal. I think Beal could be the most likely of the 3, but it's still tough to call.
Okay, I'm with you. Here's my semi-hot take. I think it's going to be Damian Lillard, and I don't want it. And I don't want it to be Damian Lillard. Now, here's why.
Wow, okay.
It's not because I have a problem with Damian Lillard, the player. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
Love him to death. He's a little older, but that's fine. He's so good, I don't care.
Yeah.
The problem with Lillard, the cost to acquire him
it's too much.
is going to be so exorbitant. It's going to CP exactly. You're going to strip your roster down, and you're never going to have enough to win. Mm-hmm. He has too many years left on his contract. The Blazers know they have to get a haul for him. So while he is probably the best player they can get, I don't think it makes sense for them to go and get him because it's going to cost you all your picks, and it's going to cost you half your young players. So I don't think that works.
Yeah.
So that's my hot take on Lillard. And that's why I'm on Team Zach LaVine. And I have slowly migrated there. I was with you on Beal at this time last year, CP. But I agree. I just don't think it's very likely at this point. If the price was identical and I had my choice between Beal and LaVine, I would probably go with Beal.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he hurts you as much defensively. So I'm with you on that. But I think LaVine hits the sweet spot between age, gettability, price to acquire him. And I'll explain why.
Good point.
He's going to be a free agent next season, period. All right? That's what he has to get to next offseason to maximize his contract value. And I hate what the Bulls did this offseason, I thought they were okay until they signed DeMar DeRozan, and I think that annoyed Zach LaVine to no end because he is going to cut into Zach LaVine's production.
Yeah.
And you know what Zach LaVine doesn't want to happen to his production the year he's going to hit his contract year? Go down.
Yeah.
So that dude wants to be firing the ball all day. So I think he's going to be pretty unhappy. I think he's going to want to leave, whether it's via trade at the trade deadline or this summer. And since he's on an expiring contract, they're not going to be able to get as much for him, especially if he says, look, I'm only going to sign an extension with one team or two teams, with one of those teams theoretically being the Knicks. So
With
you
Tibbs,
could
with
acquire
Tibbs,
a
the
guy.
coach that he loves. He's a fan of Tibbs.
So you can acquire a guy that is a legit all NBA level player, in my opinion. I mean, the guy was almost 28 points, 50, 40, 90.
Yeah, he had a great year.
His numbers were crazy. And everything I heard, I'm not sure if you guys heard Van Gundy. He was on with Zach Lowe on the Low Post a few months ago, and he raved about how great LaVine was with the Olympic team. And I think he probably figured out some stuff, or at least continue to, from what he already did with the Bulls last year, to what it means to fit in, to what it means to be a winner. He's around all these great players.
Yeah.
I think he's figuring it out. So I think you're almost acquiring him on the cheap, might be a little bit strong, but before he attains his maximum value.
Yeah.
So you're getting him before he peaks. And I think that's important here. So that's why I've migrated to LaVine, because I think he's the youngest of the group. His offensive numbers are unbelievable. I think Thibodeau will make him adequate on defense. And again, I just think the cost to acquire him is not going to decimate your team.
It's a good
So
point.
put all that together. That's why I've landed on Team Zach LaVine.
In the near term, that's a good point, JD. That's a hot take, but he made some valid points, man. Because also, I think the Dame thing, like you said, John, the cost is too high. Not to say he's too old, because he's still going to be in his prime, but as you said, LaVine younger, cheaper, and I think he could be more available, man. JD, what's your take?
I mean, on Damian Lillard, I think that if you were going to acquire him, you know, I also believe I would pass. Like, I also agree that I would pass on him. You're talking about the contract. You're also talking about an organization that they just hired Chauncey Billups. They made some changes. I anticipated that that's what they were going to do, because when you're an organization, before you trade your player, you're going to make sure that you check all the boxes. And the last box that they needed to check was getting rid of Terry Stotts and trying out a new system. There's been a lot of talk in Portland about them feeling they have enough talent, and that talent not being able to take them to the next step. I think the next step that they're going to try to do, if they intend to keep him, is potentially trade CJ McCollum and try to do something wild to get, because they don't have no flexibility. They don't have no assets. But in terms of Dame, I think if you were to acquire him, you had to do it this summer, because at this point now, he is 31 years old. Okay, so you're going to acquire him when? Next year? By the you know what I mean? Like, you're going into a season, his birthday is in July. So he's going to be 32 entering the year. Now you're going into that latter end of his contract where he's in the 40s.
High 40s, like 48.
Yeah, and here's the thing. He's a 32-year-old player. He's a small guard that has taken a beating. He drives to the basket a lot. He takes a lot of physical contact. So, how much will he have left in the end in terms of explosiveness? I think.
Yeah, and those guys can fall off quickly, man.
Yeah.
They can fall off quickly, those guys.
Yeah, and you have a much shorter window if you go get Dame right now.
Yeah, and he'll be a liability defensively. So I understand that, he's a dynamic player. He's a great scorer. But you have to evaluate not what he was last year, the year before. You have to look at what he's going to be when you get him. At this point, as a Knicks fan, CP, I don't care what he did last year, the year before. What I care about is how old is he going to be when he's a Knick? And after he's a Knick, how many years can I count on him being, all NBA?
Right.
And
you're paying for future performance, not for past performance.
Right.
Exactly. As far as LaVine, hey, if you believe in any of these conspiracies about the agencies, he signed with Clutch Sports. I personally thought when he did that, I said, well,
he's out the window. He's out of there.
He's out the window. He's out the window. When you look at the Noel thing with Rich Paul, Clutch Sports.
Yeah.
You look at the Kentucky connection, the CAA connection. Now Zach LaVine is a Clutch Sports client. Does that hold any weight? I mean, I don't know. But
Hey, never
I
know,
agree
man.
with Zach LaVine's skill set. You know, he's athletic, he's young, and hey, Tibbs coached him one time ago, so Tibbs has
Yeah,
some,
yeah.
intel on him. So in the immediate future, I do agree that Beal and Levine is the first list. And I think after that, you're looking at 2 years for Zion, the
Yeah, next
Bookers, the
generation.
Yep.
De'Aaron Fox,
Yeah,
maybe,
yeah. I'm seeing
with
some
Sacramento
SGAs in the
having
chat. A little Shea Gilgis Alexander fans in the chat.
if and listen, I'm not giving up RJ for Dame.
No.
You know,
No, you
I'm
can't.
doing it. Maybe 2 years ago, 29-year-old Dame. And when I say that, I'm not saying that, RJ's better. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is RJ could be the Karis LeVert of this organization, where
Yeah.
if you're going to trade him, you better make sure it is for a piece that's going to put you in contention for a championship, not in second round contention,
Bingo.
not
Yeah.
in first round. I'm talking about Eastern Conference Finals, NBA Finals contention. Because once RJ's gone, you don't have that asset anymore.
Moving him is the last piece. It's
Yeah,
not the
yeah,
second
it's the
piece. It's
last
the
piece.
last,
Last
piece.
piece.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, great point, man. And just the way, again, you can't get too high off workout videos, but just going off of RJ's track record, his work ethic, I'm looking forward to seeing RJ year 3, man. I want to
Yeah.
see that here in a Knick uniform before I just, send him out for somebody. Look, Dame's my favorite player in the league. Would love to see Dame and MSG dropping, 50-point games. But like you guys said, that's the last piece, not the first piece. And I think the Knicks overall have just shown, yes, they have their targets. They're willing to be aggressive, but only at a certain cost. Only at a certain price. We know that, they had guys they wanted last year. They wanted Gordon Hayward. They were interested in Malik Beasley. They wanted to move up in the draft, but if it's not at their price, they're not going to do it. But, with the war chest looking how it is, I believe they have 6 first-round picks still in the next 4 years. Like you said, John, the move is going to be trade. The move is going to be trade. So could a sign and trade for Levine be in the works? Yeah, you never know, man.
And by the way, I want no part of Karl Anthony Towns. You guys mentioned him earlier.
No. I'm good on Towns. I'm good on Towns, man. No. And again, a lot of people were big on the Zion thing. I'm not that high on the Zion thing, to be honest
No,
with
me
you.
neither. And by the way, I love Zion. I was
Yeah.
all about getting him in the draft, but I just don't see the fit
I don't see the
with
fit.
Randall unless you're sending Randall out. And then, yeah, it's an upgrade, but is it like
Major?
push you over the top
No.
upgrade?
No.
And by the way, and let's be clear about this too, and you guys made this point, unless RJ hits and becomes like an all-NBA guy, if we're being honest with ourselves as Knicks fans, let's put on our truth hats for a second. They're probably still 2 significant pieces away.
Big time.
Not 1,
Big
2.
time.
So you have to, the way you plan, you have to, after that first move, still have to have enough in terms of assets to land piece number 2. It's a really fine needle to thread, but that's what they're looking at here. It's just the facts, and that's how you have to approach it. Otherwise, you're going to wind up like they did with Melo, right? Where you're maxing out in round 2. You used all your assets to max out in round 2, and you're spinning your wheels, and then you're rebuilding 2 or 3 years down the road.
True.
You don't want to go there. You want to build something sustainable, which is why, again, that RJ and trade the house, do your 4 pick swaps, do your 4 number 1s.
Yeah.
That's your last move.
It's the last move.
That can't be your first move because, again, you need 2 stars coming in here, not just 1.
Well said. Well said. Salute to everybody in the chat. Once again, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Creeping up on, we've got about 900 in the chat here on YouTube. Salute to everybody on Facebook. Hit that like button. Let's get those likes up. I want to shout out Lloyd Barkerock Jr. Sent a super chat. He says, holy crap, is that John Schmeelk, NYG Insider? Outstanding, CP. You are moving up like the Jeffersons. Go Giants. So Lloyd Barkerock Jr., he's out on the West Coast, actually. So he's repping the Knicks, repping the Giants. Big fan of the show. So Lloyd, definitely appreciate it. All right, we're going to get to our Giants talk in just 1 second. I want to get to Jay from East New York to close us out on the Knicks. Jay, how you feeling, man?
What's going on, CP? How y'all doing?
What up, Brooklyn?
What's going on?
What's going on?
Listen, man. I'm hearing a whole lot of talk about health and all of that. I'm just looking at it like, all right, let's hope Kemba comes in healthy. I'm looking at the gameplay. Like, I'm expecting Kemba to look at this team and be like, you know what? I don't necessarily have to be, cardiac Kemba. You know what I'm saying? Let me be more of a playmaker, more of a setup guy, like you guys been saying. Like, so I'm expecting him to be Kemba. You know what I'm saying? Give us about 20 points, maybe 7, 8 assists. If he could boost that up from 5 or 6, you know what I'm saying? That's really what I'm looking at. Quick, he gonna get his minutes at the 1 and the 2. I think he's gonna step up. Like, Summer League, it was just Summer League, but he looked good. He was making plays and he was hitting shots. It was sporadic. It was here and there, but he gonna grow. You know what I'm saying? With time, he'll get better. McBride, that's my guy, man. I don't know what's gonna happen with him. I'm hoping he could try to find a way to get into the rotation. You know what I'm saying? But I got to be realistic. If he go to the G League, you know what I'm saying, a couple games and play a couple games here and there, I'm cool with that too. As long as we doing what's best for the team and we winning and looking good, everybody gonna be all right.
Yeah, good points, Jay. Definitely appreciate the call, man. So Jay's taking the optimistic route. Appreciate that. Let me go to Ari. He wants to weigh in on the player target. All right, so we'll close with Ari on this one. Ari, what's going on?
Hey, what's up, guys? How you guys doing?
Good, man. What's going
on? Not much, man. First of all, great takes by all you guys. CP, I'm 100. Like, you guys were on your game tonight.
Appreciate it, man.
Great take. I love Zach LaVine also. Do I think he's a difference maker? No, but I would rather have Zach LaVine personally than Bradley Beal. I think he's more athletic, and I think he's in a he's, like you said, he's being undervalued because of what's going on in Chicago and everything like that. So I do.
Well, I got a
him,
question for you. Hold on. All right, I got a question.
Maker.
If Zach LaVine's not a difference maker, who the heck is a difference maker in your mind? How many difference makers are in the league? What, like 5 or 6?
Yeah, it's a slim, man.
Real difference makers, I'd say there's like 10.
Okay, fair enough.
Zach LaVine's been the best. Zach LaVine had Vucevic and some, granted for half the season, didn't make the playoffs. Never made the playoffs. So
that's fair.
I think he'd be a great fit. I think he'd be a great fit, and he's a guy who can get his own bucket. He's athletic. There's no reason why he shouldn't be good on defense. He's the most athletic player in the league, honestly. So I don't see why Tibbs wouldn't get him in defender. But if you were talking player targets, and you're right, your take was right. The only way we're going to become a contender is through trade. We're not going to be able to sign any free agents because we capped ourselves out. This is why people like Jay from Florida and me get in trouble because we say we're not that close to a championship. But whatever, that's neither here nor there. But
no, but you're right. They aren't that close to a championship, Ari. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. I agree. They're not. We're just as far from a championship as we were before, and you don't want to get stuck in mediocrity. I think Zach LaVine would help. I wouldn't be against it, but you're going to have to trade for him. You can't just sign him as a free agent, so you're going to have to give up assets. And, yeah, maybe not as much as you would for Damian Lillard, but you still have to give up a lot of assets. But here's the deal. This is the player target, man. The player target is Donovan Spida Mitchell, and I don't care if you have to wait an extra year. I know the whole thing was, next summer. Whatever. He's from New York. He plays the most important position in the NBA, basically. We need a point guard. We need a dynamic point guard who can get his own bucket, all right? He's athletic. And he is actually proven to take his team to be the #1 seed in the West. He's proven that he could play on the biggest stage. He was dropping like 50 a game against Jamal Murray in the playoffs. He is a difference maker. And I don't see why he'd want to stay in Utah out of all places. It's like the worst market for someone to play in, honestly. He's from New York. Okay, he grew up in Westchester where Obi, I think, Connecticut or whatever, close to Obi Toppin. He's got New York made for him. He's a big-time gamer. He plays the most important position, and he's a perfect fit. But whoever we go after, man, it can't be like, listen, I'll take Zach LaVine. I'm not going to complain. But if we're trying to talk chips, trying to talk rings, you're talking about Jason Tatum. You're talking about Booker, Luka. You're talking about the next generation of superstars, right? If you're really trying to win a chip, man, that's what you got to be. And I think the most realistic one is Donovan Mitchell, man. He's been proven. He's done more than Tatum, everybody. He's proven he plays the most important position, and I think the Knicks got to do whatever they can to get him, or just be patient and wait for Jason Tatum or something. Jason Tatum loves playing in the Garden, whatever it is. But if you're gonna go big game hunting, go. If you want to go big game hunting, go big game hunting.
All right,
and get a real star. So that's what
but Ari, that's the thing, man. That's why that can't be your first move, because if you think Damian Lillard's expensive, guess what?
Oh,
Spider's going to cost you just as much,
He's
dude.
going to cost you everything, man.
He's going to cost you everything, and then you got nothing left. So if you make the Levine move first, then in 2 years maybe, then you go out and you empty whatever you left in the cupboard for Mitchell. So that's why the first move has to be not for your 1A guy. Your first move has to be for your 1B guy. Then you go your big game hunting, because then you add your 1A guy, it's chip or bust. And you know what? If you trade all your future assets, you live with it because you're competing for a title. But the first move has to be for that, all-star, but not superstar, which is why I think Levine, and you mentioned, look, it's going to cost you maybe a pick and a player. If you're signing and trading for Levine and he's picking his destination next summer, it's not costing you much more than a pick and a player. It's just not. So that's why he's first. And the Uber star is last.
Yeah,
and that's why you have to be a little patient.
And in the meantime, I think you hope that whatever you have left in terms of your core continues to develop. I.e. RJ, or you know what I mean, or is it Grimes, or is it McBride, or whoever's left of that stable, or is it Quickley? Another person that could maybe assume the third player or the fourth of a nice solid contender.
And I mean, that's why it's so difficult to build a championship.
Hardest
unless you're LeBron James. That's why LeBron James will go down as one of the. It's just I don't think people realize, and I'm not a LeBron fan, but I just sometimes don't think people realize how crazy his career has been. Unless you're a player that has bettered himself as much as he has with these one-on-ones, where he controls his destiny, he controls, player activity. It's unless you do it that way, where you have a star that's doing that. Look at a lot of these players after LeBron. Nobody has taken those risks. Everybody's going with the long term. They're going with the financial security. Yeah. Nobody's doing these one-on-ones
anymore. I think Kawhi has and KD has.
Well, Kawhi, but look at now though.
Yeah.
He got this knee injury, and he wasn't even playing around with free agents. He's like, no, I'm re-signing with the Clippers, even if Paul George is pandemic Pete. Like, I don't care. Like, at this point, you get to a point where even Kawhi has to rethink. Like, okay, I got this knee issue now. What's my long-term longevity now in the NBA? So it just makes it difficult because, as John was saying, now the Knicks may be in a position where you have to make 2 trades. And usually if you look at LeBron's championship teams, it's always easier when you could get one guy to sign outright, right? When you could get one guy to sign outright where you don't have to give up assets, it makes it much easier to do a Levert type deal, to do that deal with, for the next guy.
And by the way, that's why I think a sign and trade is important, by the way. That's why I think one of them has to be the sign and trade.
Right. And you're going to have to do it, maybe via the Levine or Beal, where these guys have leverage, as we get closer to the season. Let's say the Wizards or the Bulls, because I think the Bulls are a little bit overrated. I don't see how that roster fits.
I think their bench is terrible too.
I agree.
You get to the
100%.
deadline, right? And they don't look like they have much of a future. Then now questions are going to start to brew in. And it's the NBA, man. It's made up that way. There's always going to be something that's going to happen. There's going to be somebody that's going to move. There's going to be somebody that gets traded. It's just going to happen. And as far as Donovan Mitchell, well, if you look at his contract, you're probably going into 2 years, because after this year, he has 3 years left, and then he has a player option. So 2 years from now, he's going to be entering his contract year. That's probably the time that you hope that he looks to demand a trade, because if you are in a situation where you have to make a move for someone, you also want to do it at a time where they don't have as much leverage, right? A player that's entering the last year has some leverage. When you're trading for somebody like Dame now, where he has 3 years left, James Harden, 3 years left, you don't have as much leverage. You have to give up the farm. So, looking at Donovan Mitchell, you're going to have to look at his contract, and you're probably looking at 2024, I would say, before you start thinking about him becoming a Knick.
Yeah, certainly agree, man. Certainly agree. All right, so let's segue. I thought this was a great Knicks panel. Great show. Thanks again, John. Definitely appreciate it. So let's segue to some G-Men talk. All right, we're going to football now. JD, this was the panel. This is why I brought the two of you on, because I knew we could do both and do both very well. Giants, Broncos, Sunday kickoff. And John, I have to tell you, this year with the G-Men, I have no expectations once again, but I'm just a little bit. I'm just nervous, man. I'm just not. I'm not excited about what's to come, and I'm gonna start with this area first because I feel like everything else will trickle down from there. And it's an area.
Let me guess. The offensive line.
The offensive line, an area of concern that has not been addressed since 2011. They have not focused on the rebuild. Now I'm gonna take you to draft night, John. And I'm watching, okay, they trade with Chicago, great trade. They go and pick Tony. I said, okay, skill position, he's nice to have. We definitely need those. But okay, hopefully offensive line is next. They go Olajari next in the second round. I say, okay.
Great value.
Great value. Offensive line has got to be next. Then they go Robinson, the cornerback. Olajari's the linebacker, the pass rusher, right? Then they go cornerback with Robinson. I say, okay, what's going on here? And I'm on Twitter, and I'm like, where's the offensive line help? And I have people saying, you got to wait for, last year's picks to pan out. They can't keep picking offensive line every year. And I'm just like, but we have no answer yet. Thomas was okay last year. Had some rough spots, but he was okay. We have Hernandez, who first year was good, second year was kind of topsy turvy. The Solder thing I didn't like when he first got him. Things are just out of whack, and now we're looking at an offensive line that still needs help. What do you make of that?
All right. We'll go in the time machine here. And the one thing I'll pick a bone with what you said, CP, is that I think they've really tried to address the offensive line, right? Mm-hmm. But I want to go back in time. Justin Pugh, first-round pick. Western Richburg, second-round pick.
Yes.
Eric Flowers, first-round pick.
Terrible.
Will Hernandez, second-round pick. Matt Peart, third-round pick.
Yeah.
Andrew Thomas, first-round pick. Nate Solder, top free agent on the market.
Yeah.
Jeff Schwartz, big free agent contract. Yeah. So I think they've tried. Now, obviously, they have not succeeded yet because this has been an ongoing issue since 2013, right? Mm-hmm. So I think they've tried to address the issue. And I think the bet the Giants made this offseason was, look, over the last 4 years or 4 drafts since Dave Gettleman got here, we invested a second-round pick in Will Hernandez. We used a first-round pick on Andrew Thomas. We used a third-round pick on Matt Peart, okay? We believed in these guys when we drafted them. We believe we've developed Nick Gates to the point where he can be a starting caliber center, and I think he's probably one of the bright spots on the offensive line right now. He's named the captain. I think he's been pretty good.
Yeah.
And then they liked what they saw from Shane Lemieux last year. Mm-hmm. So they said, look, we're going to go and spend our free agent dollars. We're going to improve. We're going to get that second cornerback, which everyone knew was a need. We wanted to get that tall playmaker, which everyone knew was a need. Mm-hmm. So they used the money on Jackson and Golladay, 2 needs. Then you get to the draft. I know you listen to the stuff we do, CP. I was team Rashawn Slater. I think he's a heck of a player. I think he's a really good player. But at the same time, and Paul Dottino, on my co-host, threw it down. He goes, John, look, I'm going to make you make this decision. Rashawn Slater's on the board. The Bears, and he was. The Bears offer you that trade. You take the trade. And I sat there for like 5 minutes, and I thought about it, and I would have taken the trade.
Yeah.
I think having that extra first-round pick next year.
I like the trade.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, as much as I loved, I would have picked Devontae Smith if he was there too, by the way. Either one of those guys. Mm-hmm. But given what you got and the value of having 2 first-round picks next year and the extra pick later on too, I thought it was a trade you had to make. So, and once you got past that, there was never to me an obvious, super valued offensive lineman on the board when they picked. I know a lot of Giant fans are up in arms. How did you not pick Trey Smith? He dropped to the 5th round. He's going to start for the Chiefs and. Look, the guy had a heart condition. I'm not a doctor. I can't judge how these medical staffs are going to pass or fail these guys. Mm-hmm. So I can't talk about medical stuff. I just don't know the answers to that. None of us do except for the team doctors.
Right.
So they're placing a bet that they made the right decisions with these draft picks, that these guys are going to have enough internal improvement where they're going to come together and they're going to play well. And I think fans were somewhat willing to be optimistic. And then we had one half of that third preseason game, and everyone just lit their hair on fire. It was all over. It was like all that offseason optimism was just gone. You just went up in flames, poof. So I'm going to try to be level-headed and say I'm not going to let a half of preseason football change my mind as to what the strategy is and whether or not it's going to work. Now, is there a guarantee that this development's going to happen, it's going to work? No. There's not all guys develop at the same rate. Not all guys develop at all. We've seen it with guys that the Giants have had on this roster, right? So we don't know. But I want to see more before I'm willing to, hit the big red button and be the dog in the room with the fire going all around me that, this is not going well.
And then they did, they went out and got Price from the Bengals, and they got, I think it was Berretson from the Ravens. So it looks like they're trying to get, some reinforcements, some depth here, just in case. But then I saw that they've upgraded Solder to the right tackle.
And by the way, and I think that's the right move.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Solder, say what you want about him. I thought at the time, I thought they had to sign a left tackle that year just because they were so desperate.
Yes.
They were trying to make a run.
Yes, absolutely.
You had to.
Absolutely.
You had no choice. And look, Solder never made a Pro Bowl. I hope everyone went into that eyes wide open as to what he was. And I have more faith in Nate Solder against Von Miller than I do Matt Barrett.
Yeah.
So I do think that's probably the way they go. But I also think, CP, that you're going to see a pretty heavy rotation between those guys. I think you're going to see Parrott get a few series a game, too, to be honest with you.
Interesting. And I hope Thomas really, takes form. I really hope he takes form.
He has to. I'm sorry for interrupting, but that is the key, dude.
Yeah.
Fourth overall pick, he needs to be your franchise left tackle. They believe he can be the franchise left tackle. It might not happen fast enough for some Giant fans, but until that preseason game, to be honest with you, I thought he was having a pretty good summer. I thought him and Nick Gates were both pretty darn good all summer long in practice, and even in the joint practices between with the Browns and the Patriots. I thought Thomas was okay. So I'm hoping that how he plays is more reminiscent of the rest of his offseason rather than just the one half of football that we all saw.
Now, when we talk about the franchise, the quarterback, man, most important piece of this thing in Daniel Jones, and this is year 3. Fans, you have one part of the Giants fans who are optimistic. They feel like he's next. And for me, John, I got to tell you, when I came up watching this team, I was right at the end of Sims when I first started making sense of football, and I waited 3-4 quarterbacks before we got to Eli, before we finally had some, right? I went through the Dave Brown, the Kent Grahams, the Danny Cannells, and a lot of those guys didn't get drafted as early as Jones. Danny Cannell had a great career. What was he at? Florida State. Florida State. Great career as a college quarterback, but no one could prove that they could be the franchise. Kerry was great for us, got us to the championship, rebounded well from Carolina. With Jones, I think you and David Deal today hit it right on the head with your expectations, and I think it's a pocket presence, right? Because the fumbles have been an issue, the interceptions have been an issue, the overall decision making. But I think him improving his pocket presence is really something that I want to see him do this season, and really extend plays when he can, and just make the right reads down the field. What's your take on Jones this year?
No, CP, you're right. And you're talking about, I was on with David Deal on Big Blue Kickoff Live today. That was the conversation you're talking about. And you're right. And I think that's something that comes with experience. And I think he's done a good job of getting the ball out quicker. I do think that's something he's good at. And here's the thing about Jones. And I even underestimated this when we did our draft coverage. He's a much more physically gifted player than I think a lot of people even now give him credit for. Like, he can make all the throws. I can make the argument that his physical talent actually surpasses Eli. Combine athleticism with arm strength, tight spiral. I can make that argument. I can make the argument. So he has all the physical traits. Can he figure out the art of playing quarterback? And he's such a good athlete, but can he turn that athleticism into functional elusiveness in the pocket, right? Where he can, make those off kilter plays that Josh Allen makes, that Herbert makes, guys like that, Patrick Mahomes, can he do those things? Can he take that next step? And I think it only happens with work and snaps. And now he has the weapons around to do it. And I think he'll have the opportunity, and we'll see. And I think that's why, and JD, this is why I think this season's so exciting. This is kind of the culmination of everything that's happened the last 4 years. For better or worse, we're going to find out if the way they built this was the right way, and if it's going to work or if it's not. From the offensive line to the quarterback to the running back to the defense, put it all together. They've committed to this roster now for the next couple of years with the way they've spent money in free agency. This is it. So this is the culmination of all that now, and that's why I can't wait for these games to start, because we're finally going to start getting some answers.
Yeah, I mean, I can't, you know, I can't wait for Sunday. It's only a few days away, so we're gonna find out with Daniel Jones. I think it's going to come down to in the long run. Is you mentioned Eli. One of the things Eli caught a lot of slack, a lot of slander throughout his career with the interceptions and the turnovers and this and that. But the one thing that Eli was able to do throughout his career, especially in crunch time in playoff situations, is the hurry up offense, the fourth quarter, his pocket, in the pocket. There were many times where he felt the pressure, he would slide
Right.
up, at key moments. Eli had this knack for just making big plays.
No,
And
absolutely.
I think that does Jones has that. That's what I'm looking for is, when it comes down to this season, I know the offensive line is going to catch all the heat, but he's also going to have to help them. And as you mentioned, Jones is actually more athletic than Eli. He's faster than Eli. He might be an inch taller than Eli, and he looks to be a little bit stronger. So he has the physical tools. Does he have the awareness? Does he have the pocket, presence? And does he have the clutch gene? We're gonna find out this season. As John said, they've made a big investment on a lot of these players. Saquon Barkley being one. Dory Jackson this offseason, giving him that contract. Logan Ryan. Like, this team is set. They're set for a few years, and we're gonna find out, was this plan a good plan, and I think that's why they made that trade too, as kind of like a security blanket. You're gonna have additional draft capital next year in the event that this does not pan out the way a lot of us hope. They'll be equipped to make a quick turnaround. Depending on how the Chicago Bears do because they own that draft pick.
Yeah, and I'm hoping Justin Fields, he had some bright spots in the preseason, man. I'm hoping they stick with Andy Dalton. Stick it out with the vet. Stick it out with the vet, man. We'll go to Fields later on in the season. But let's go with Dalton first. And as JD mentioned, Saquon. This is third year. Saquon had the unfortunate injury last year. I was so disappointed and sad for him that happened to him. But again, the strength of the offensive line will dictate his success in some regard. So they're saying that he may play in week one. What are you hearing about that? And just what are your overall expectations for Saquon this year?
Yeah, I'm optimistic, to be honest with you. Look, he got taken off pump a month ago. I think almost to the day. I think it was something like August 6th or August 7th when he got taken off the pup list. So that's a long time to get ready for the year. So he's been practicing. He hasn't had a setback as far as any of us could tell. I haven't seen him take contact in practice. They kind of hid that until the media wasn't allowed to watch anymore. So I can't comment on how he's taken it. But look, I think he's going to play. How much he's going to play and how many touches he gets, I think, is an open question. Remember, they have that quick turnaround in week 2 against Washington, which I do think complicates things. And here's the good thing, though, CP, and I said this on today's Big Blue Kickoff Live, too. Say what you want about the offensive line. Last year with Wayne Gallman, who is, an average NFL running back, they ran for 100 yards in 7 straight games and 8 out of 9 in the middle of that year. So this offensive line, as much as people want to criticize them for their pass protection, their run blocking was actually pretty good last year. So I think Saquon's going to have a monster year. I've been on that for a while now. My bold prediction this year, I think he's going to surpass his rookie year in terms of yards from scrimmage. And I think he had 2028 or 2032 that year in terms of his yards from scrimmage. So I think he's going to surpass that this year. I think he's in for a big year as long as he stays healthy and all the hard work he puts in. I think he will. Remember, his last 2 injuries, he never has soft tissue injuries. It was a high ankle sprain, and then he had the ACL. Those things happen. You get rolled up on. Things happen. So I think he's going to have a big year. And I think you feel good about it. And I think that's why you hope that you don't have to be a pass-heavy team so you can avoid some of maybe those issues on the offensive line that might pop up, and you can lean on Barkley a little bit. And I think that's what they're going to try to do and win with their defense, which I think is going to be very strong.
JD, you want to get in on the Saquon topic?
Yeah, I mean, I think same thing as what John said. I think Saquon's going to have a very strong year. I think the game plan will be to rely on him as much as you can, and use him as a pass catcher. Maybe spread him out, and use him in other areas.
Yeah.
Because he's an explosive player, so you have to maximize his talent more. In addition to being a runner, as a receiver, use some creative plays. They're going to rely on him a lot. We may not be able to see that until maybe week 3, week 4, just because of coming off injury. You have the short week. You're going to play Thursday, right, against a tough defense too. So it's not only that it's a quick turnaround. You're playing a physical defense.
2 tough defenses in a row, by the way. Denver and Washington are both excellent.
Right, and it's going to be, and it's a division game. Division games are always tough games. So you may not see the full extent of the way they're going to utilize them until week 3, week 4.
Yeah.
But I'm expecting a big year, and this is a big year for him personally as well. There was a lot of talk about, did the Giants make the right move in drafting a running back that high?
Yeah.
And I know for him personally, he understands this is a big year for him, and I think he will respond to those expectations.
Certainly hope so, man. It's going to be a big year for him, as you said. And John, before we get to the defense, Kadarius Toney, drafted again. He was much hyped out of Florida. Didn't start training camp too well. He didn't have the shoes, and then unfortunately, I think he had COVID, and he's got the hamstring. I'm hoping this isn't like a Jarrell Jernigan part 2, man. I'm hoping this kid can you know what I mean, man. Jarrell Jernigan, what a nightmare.
Jernigan.
What a nightmare. Yeah, I'm bringing up. I got PTSD, JD. I'm
Oh
telling you, man. I'm
man,
nervous.
dude, you do have PTSD.
I'm nervous,
Jeez,
John.
like what's this? Ramsey's barn? You're gonna bring up to me? I mean, come on, man.
These guys are injured. Galladay's injured. Tony's injured. Ingram always injured. But anyway, how do you see
Norris
them?
Moss.
Yes, Norris Moss. How do you see them using Tony in this offense?
Sonoris Moss, by the way, one of the best practice players I've
Oh,
ever
yeah.
seen. No one could cover that dude in practice.
Wow.
It was unbelievable.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna do the flip side of this for you. You know what other wide receiver barely practiced at all in camp and missed like the first 4 games of his rookie year? I'd be number 13, Odell Beckham Jr. And he turned out to be pretty good.
Yeah.
So, and again, I'm not saying Kadarius Toney's going to be Odell Beckham Jr., but there are
I think
ways to
Odell
overcome
had like
this sort of
hamstring.
stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, he had a hamstring.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
100%. So, look, Joe Judge was asked about that today, and he said, I believe he will have an impactful role, I believe was the word he used. And he said, now, I don't necessarily measure a major role. He said he'll have a major role. And he said, I don't necessarily measure the being a major role by number of snaps. I measure it by his ability to make an impact. That's what he said. So my guess is that we're not going to see him for a ton of snaps just because, look, you have Galladay, you have Shepard, you have Slayton. There's just not a lot of room at the end right now at wide receiver, right? So I think you're going to see him in special teams as a return man in spots. I think you'll see a couple small packages for him on offense where maybe you run some wide receiver screens for him. You run him on some jet sweep action. I think at some point this year, maybe not week 1, you might see a halfback option pass from him. Run him in the backfield a little bit. That dude's got a cannon. He was a high school quarterback. So I think you have a little bit of a package for him. I wish CP I could give you some level of insight into what he's going to bring. I literally have not seen him practice in full once since he got to the Giants because of those issues you've mentioned. I mean, I watched his tape
shoe
at Florida.
Thing was crazy, man.
Dude, it's nuts. I watched his tape at Florida. It was awesome. Like, you put the ball in his hands. He's like a pinball out there, making people miss, running through tackles. Like, he's unbelievable, his ability with the ball in his hands. But, he just hasn't been able to do much in practice. So I think it's still a bit of a mystery, but I think they'll have a package for him here to try to give him the opportunity to make some plays with the ball in his hand.
Interesting.
Kadarius Toney
indeed,
has
man.
some pressure. Kadarius Toney has some pressure himself because of, as John mentioned earlier, the whole Slater talk, the trade talk, and he's had a weird offseason. As John said, we have no clips of him other than when he first, I think it was mini camp. He, you saw him going through a few drills, but we haven't seen
with
any,
one shoe on.
yeah, exactly. It's just been a weird off season for him. But, I think they'll have some special design plays for him here in week 1, depending on what that is. We'll see on Sunday, and I think they'll slowly increase his snaps as the weeks come on.
Speaking of the defense, again, I'm always a trenches guy, John. Just coming off of all our good teams. Sometime I've been watching Giants. You build from the trenches, and everything works out. How are we looking on pass rush? You know, Lorenzo Carter had some promise. He got hurt last year. I do like the tackles. You know, Dexter Lawrence. I love that pickup in the Odell trade. Where do you see? How do you see the pass rush looking for us next season?
You know, I agreed with you, and I was worried about Carter coming off the Achilles this year. But then a week ago, you know, Patrick Graham was asked about Lorenzo Carter, and that's the Giants defensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. He gave this like long 2-minute soliloquy about how great he's come back. Even with the injury, he looks like a completely different player than he looked like last year. He mentioned Chandler from his days in New England, and now he's with Arizona. Mm-hmm. He's not comparing him as players, but he says, look, you feel him out there like you do with Chandler Jones. So, yeah. So I think I'm more optimistic about what Lorenzo Carter can bring. It's his 4th year. I think if it's going to happen, it's going to happen now. And then you hope, you know, the other side, you split some time between Ojulari, you split some time between O'Shane Zimenez, you get a couple sacks from there. But I think you're looking at Carter on one side. You hope Leonard Williams can, you know, I don't know if he's going to get you. Yeah. I don't think he's getting you double digits again. It's just really hard. I went back in the last 5 years, only one defensive tackle has had back-to-back years with double-digit sacks, and his name's Aaron Donald, and nobody's Aaron Donald. So that's going to be a real tough go for him to get to double digits. But if he gives you 7 or 8, that's a heck of a year. I think you're happy. And then I think you talk about building with the trenches. The Giants have built from the secondary, right?
Yeah.
Bradbury, Jackson, Peppers, draft McKinney, sign Logan Ryan. Those are 5 defensive backs that are big investments, right? Mm-hmm. So you can cover a lot man-to-man, and you can make up for your lack of outside pass rushers that can consistently win one-on-one by blitzing a lot more. Mm-hmm. So I think you're going to see a lot more pressure. I think Peppers is going to be used as a blitzer a lot, and I think you're going to have a bunch of guys with 3 to 5 sacks rather than 2 guys with double digits, and that's how they're going to try to work the pass rush.
Mix it around. How's my guy Blake Martinez been looking this year, man? That he was a beast in the linebacker core last year, man. Tackle machine.
I love Blake. He's a great dude too, man. He's tremendous, and he's just so solid. He calls the defense. He organizes everybody. He's smart. He never misses a tackle. He's really good at zone defense, which is what they played most of the time last year. I'm curious to see if they play more man this year, how he's going to handle that. But he's really good in the run game. You plug him, you play him, you don't worry about him. And I think it's probably the Giants' best middle linebacker since Antonio Pierce. Yep. And I don't think it's close, to be honest.
So that play he made, John, in preseason? That play he made in preseason, that interception was amazing.
Yeah, one hand, carrying Jonnu Smith down the seam. It's pretty good.
I'm telling you, you hit it on the money, man. He reminds me of Pierce so much, and definitely glad to have him. I love Bradbury in the secondary as well. So we got the Broncos coming into town, 2.5-point road favorites. How do you see this thing playing out?
Look, if you like old school Giants football, you're going to enjoy Sunday, because this is going to be, I think, a grinded out, ugly, low-scoring game. I think both these defenses at the end of the year will be top 10 defenses. The Broncos, they're really good up front. Bradley Chubb and Von Miller will be an early challenge for the offensive tackles. They have a completely revamped secondary. They bring back their 2 safeties, Justin Simmons and Kareem Jackson, who are both very good players. Simmons, one of the best safeties in the league. Then they add Kyle Fuller from the Bears, who's really good. Yeah, they bring back Callahan, who's a good player. And they sign Ronald Darby, who's a solid NFL corner. And then they drafted Patrick Surtain the second in the first round, right?
Patrick Surtain. Wow, we're getting old, man. We got another Patrick Surtain in the league.
Dude, it's crazy. Trust me. I never feel older than I. Dude, Joe Judge is 2 months younger than me. I feel like an old freaking man. It's no good. But look, they have a really good secondary. Like the Broncos could have a top 5 defense this year. So look, this might sound cliche. The team that wins this game is going to be the team that either makes that one big play on offense, maybe a big Saquon Barkley run. The Broncos' run defense is not the best, and the Giants' defense is good as preventing big plays. Or the team that loses is going to be the team that throws that pick six, that fumble, and the ball gets returned for a touchdown, or gives up a special team score, right? It's going to be that one big play that swings this game, good or bad, that I think is going to decide things. And I'll just say this about Denver, because I think a lot of Giant fans are sleeping on them. If they had a Pro Bowl level quarterback, they would be in the Super Bowl conversation. That's how good their roster is. I talked about all their guys on defense. Guys, on offense, look at Cortland Sutton,
Yeah.
Jerry Jeudy, Noah Fant, Tim Patrick, KJ Hamler, Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, and Gordon had a good year last year. He had a pretty good year.
Melvin Gordon was great last year, and
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
Javonte Williams was the best running back in the draft. That dude has like Marshawn Lynch like vibes going on. He's a hell of a player. So, and they have a good offensive line. So if Teddy Bridgewater can give him anything here, I think the Broncos can be a really, really good team. So they're good. They're a very, very solid football team. So I think it'll be a close game. It'll be a field goal game. And whichever team, again, makes that one big play or one big mistake, that's going to kind of determine how this goes. And if the Giants want to win, guys, last year the Broncos were bottom 5, bottom 6 in the league in run defense in most major categories. Run it well on first. I know, trust me, I'm a passing on first down guy. I want to be aggressive. But in this game, no. Run the ball. Don't let the Broncos pass rushers on 3rd and long pin their ears back and rush the quarterback. Run the ball on them, whether it's Booker or Saquon, however this goes. That's how you're going to win this game if you're the Giants. Let your defense win it. Don't turn it over. Protect your quarterback. Win a nip-and-tuck game and get your season off to a good start. Because, guys, the last thing the Giants see, and I'll close on this and then I'll shut up. Every year since 2013, except for one, the Giants have started 0-2.
Yep.
The only year they did not start 0-2 was the one year since 2013 they've made the playoffs in 2016. It is imperative that they get off to at least a 1-1 start this year.
Yeah.
So why not do it in week 1 so you're not heading into Washington in week 2 thinking it's Armageddon trying to win in a short week against a division opponent. I'll leave it at that.
Well said, man. Well said. We got to get off to a better start, man, because it's always like after the second game, now you're figuring out, okay, well, if we beat this team, now we can get a wild card, and you're already predicting doomsday scenarios early, JD. So, JD, give me a score prediction and your thoughts on the game.
Well, my thoughts on the game is, John mentioned a lot of what's most likely going to happen in the way that they're going to attack the Denver Bronco defense. It's certainly a talented defense. And, as John mentioned, the Giants defense have a big test to start out in the first game. They have a talented, when John was mentioning Sutton and Jeudy and Tim Patrick, Noah Fant, he mentioned a lot of first round picks there with Fant and Jerry Jeudy. Melvin Gordon is a first round pick. They have some A1 talent on that roster. So, yes, Bridgewater is not Aaron Rodgers. He's not Patrick Mahomes. But in these tight games, one little, busted coverage, one little missed assignment, and you have a 40-yard play, you have a touchdown, that could be the difference in the game. So the Giants defense needs to be disciplined, and they need to, execute the game plan. As far as offensively, I think first down is going to be important for them in terms of getting positive play so that you don't become predictable in second and third downs. That first down, they have to get positive play, get Daniel Jones in comfortable yardage plays, 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5, at least 2nd and 7. You don't want to get into negative yardage on first down. And now, you're allowing a defense to set against you and better game plan and execute their game plan. As far as the game, I think if you do pass the ball, listen, it's hard with this secondary, but if I had to pick one guy that I would challenge the most would be Ronald Darby out of their corners. That would be a guy that I would challenge the most. If I had to pick, I would look at getting, Kenny Golladay to his side, getting, maybe even a package with Kadarius Toney, try to test him with some speed. That would be the one position. When teams play the Giants, they're going to look at that secondary and they're going to do the same thing. They're going to say, okay, this Giants secondary is very good. What is the one position we're going to attack? And as I mentioned to you, CP, if Adoree Jackson lives up to his billing, that Giants slot corner position is going to get attacked a lot, and teams are probably going to look at maybe Blake Martinez or Jabril Peppers in terms of, you just try to get your best matchups. And if you're an offense, you're looking at probably those 3 players, Blake Martinez, get him on space, Jabril Peppers, try to test Darnay Holmes. So if I'm the Giants, I'm looking at Ronald Darby. Giant fans, keep in mind on that matchup. You may hear that name a lot on Sunday when the Giants pass the ball. They may be targeting that position. Final score, I have the Giants 23, and I'm going to give the Broncos 16. I think the Giants defense holds up 23-16, New York Football Giants.
Nice.
And by the way, you go back on CP real quick. You go back on Ronald Darby. very susceptible to double moves. So if you can get Jones a little bit of time and run like Slayton on a double move with that speed or something, that's how you could get him.
Well said, fellas. And John, what's your score prediction, man? I can't let you go without the score prediction.
I don't do predictions, man. I'm calling the game. I don't do predictions. All right, how about this?
Yeah.
I will give you a score. I'm not going to tell you know what? Not hell with it. I'll do it. All right. How about let's say Giants 13, Broncos 9.
Okay. All right. I'm going 17-14. G-Men season opener. Get off to the right start, and then go take the division away from the Washington football team. Let's do it.
Saquon Barkley, 40-yard touchdown will be the only touchdown scored in the game.
Let's do it.
I was gonna say, based on you guys' score predictions, I guess if they do score 23, it's a major accomplishment.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go a little bit conservative, JD. You know, we got to figure out Tony's shoe situation. We got to make sure Galladay's healthy, Jones is back right. It's too many question marks for me right now. So I'm keeping the score low and low scoring game, 17-14. G-Men with the W, man. But fellas, I definitely appreciate it. John, definitely appreciate the time, man. Had a great conversation talking Knicks and Giants with you. Good luck to this on you for you guys on the season. You know, you, P. Dot, Lance Meadow, my guy Carl Banks. Salute to you guys, man. You guys do a great job on FAN, and I always tune in if I'm not watching on TV, and then I tune in for the post game as well. So, good luck to you, and great job as usual.
CP, I appreciate it. If you're a Giant fan, check out the Giants Podcast Network, Giants app, giants.com/podcast. Big Blue Kickoff live every day at 12:30. Giants Huddle Podcast as well. All the archives are up where you can find them. And for the Knicks, the Bank Shot, which is on WFAN.com, Odyssey.com. Check it out. Bit of a hiatus right now, I'm not going to lie, but we'll be back when camp opens. Make sure you go check it out.
Absolutely. And JD, great job as usual, man. Let them know where they can find you, man.
JD Sports Talk on YouTube and on Twitter, JD Sports Talk NY. And this was an amazing show, man. I had a blast with you guys. John, thank you. It was an honor to talk Giants with you, as I told you privately. I've watched you, along for the years for Giants content, and I can't wait to see, your podcasts and all your shows and player interviews this year. And let's get it, man. I can't wait for Sunday. And as far as the Knicks, hey, we're only a few weeks away for training camp.
Yeah.
And I can't wait. It's going to be an exciting season. I can't wait for the next show. Let's get it.
And JD, man, this time of year is always tough because in previous years, I would never want to do the show after a Giants loss and then the Knicks loss. That'd be the worst Sunday for me, man. So hopefully, we got another show Sunday. We finished up the season preview, the play expectations. Hopefully, we're in a good mood after Giants win. 4:25 kickoff. I'm going 17-13, 17-14. Giants over the Broncos. So to everybody in the chat, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you guys go to manscaped.com, enter promo code KFTV for 20% off plus free shipping. The links for the podcast version of the show will be available on KnicksFanTV.com in a couple of hours. So if you guys missed it on video, you can always catch it on audio as well. And as I said, next show will be Sunday night. Same time, we'll wrap up our player expectations and continue the season preview series. For John Schmeelk, JD Sports Talk, CP, I'm out of here. Have a good night.